Okay, I think we're about ready again then. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Just JP. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, today we are listening to Rivers of Nihil, Where Owls Know My Name. I have heard of this band, but I cannot say that I've ever really listened to them. The Rivers of Nihil, I'm going to be mispronouncing that, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to call them Rivers. Rivers is an American technical death metal band from Reading, Pennsylvania. They are currently signed to Metal Blade Records, blah, 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 blah. They have released 2 EPs and 3 studio albums to date. Okay, a long time ago, in my former years, I used to listen to like a lot of metalcore and deathcore and stuff like that, so I'm not going to be taken aback by the sound or anything like that, I'm sure. But I haven't really listened to that stuff recently. It's just not something I'm, for the most part, interested in anymore. Not to say that it's bad or anything like that. It's just not my preferred listening thing. But very curious to hear about them. I know a lot of people have mentioned them online, so let's get into it. Of course, join me in the comments down below for discussion. Join me on Twitter, and let's do it. This is Rivers of Nil. I think it's Nil. Where Owls Know My Name. That's good. Yeah, that's cool. think that's going to have to be one of the best songs that I've heard this year for myself personally, as far as I can see. That came out 2018. But there's literally so much to unpack in that song. I don't even know where to begin. Give me a moment. Give me one moment to look up something because I need some help here. Musically, it's absolutely amazing. I've mentioned it before: structure, tides, rises and falls, conflicts and resolutions. And this type of progressive metal, if you want to, I think it's very progressive in its sound. I think this type of metal does very well from following that structure. And what I mean is that you have rises and falls. Setting, let me make my hand viewable to you guys. Setting, rising conflict, climax, and then resolution. It's a story arc. This is your story arc. And the same thing happens in music. This type of music, this type of progressive rock, progressive metal, death metal, whatever you want to go into with it, it has this perfect setting to follow that structure. And I think that's what makes music interesting. So already you're lulled in by this awesome, awesome groove that it opens with. Like, it lulls you into this beautiful melodic playing of the bass, the guitar, everything. And the chords are very interesting that they use. The singing is great. It's very moody. It sets a perfect tone for what's going to come. And then it gives you that little lull, that little break. And I think breaks are very interesting in music because breaks are used usually to either isolate something that's happening or to create tension. And I've mentioned that before on JPMP. So in the break here, it's used to create tension before it gets into the heavy part with the growling and the guitars and everything, before everything comes crashing in, basically. But it's used so well here. The way it isolates the vocals from the previous part in the verse with the softly sung vocals, and then it crashes and crescendos into the verses. Well, actually, I believe that's the chorus. Into the chorus there with the growling and everything, which everything sounded so good. The thing is about each of those parts, they flowed so well into each other, and they, as different as they are, as contrasting as they are, they work really well together. It kind of reminds me how in a lot of modern films, trailers, and posters and stuff like that, they use the colors orange and blue. If you don't know that, look it up. Look into the next summer blockbuster movie that's coming out, and it's always a lot of blues and oranges. They're contrasting colors, and I don't know the exact science and stuff behind it, so work with me here. But the way that they work together, it creates this certain sense of, I don't know, interest, I guess. And the same thing works here in this song, in the contrast between the soft melodic parts and the heavy parts that come after. And it reminds me a lot of Opeth in that realm, not literally in their sound, but in the way they use that structure. And for me personally, Opeth was the first band that got me into growling and heavier music on that end of the spectrum. And I feel that they were a great entry point into that. And the same thing with Rivers, they are a great entry point. Not only that, but they're a great point. They're just awesome. I love this song. His vocals I thought were amazing. Like I mentioned, you have the softly sung parts, and his growling, it's very interesting because his growl is a little raspier than I feel a lot of others are. His has this certain, I don't know, there's a certain tone in his voice that's a lot different. So for example, in Opeth, you have, I think it's Michael, maybe Mikhail, I don't want to say Michael. In Opeth, his growls are very low and very guttural. It feels like it's straight from here. With Rivers, I get a lot of it from his throat tones. And I don't know why, but I like it. It works very well here. It's almost on the low spectrum of a black metal kind of scream, but it's not a scream. It just has that same kind of raspiness. Man, all the instruments in this song, absolutely just killing it. The bass, it reminds me a lot of Opeth. The bass is just groovy and funky, heavy when it needs to. The guitar, same thing. Very melodic, very... taking a nice background tone in the soft parts, but then for that heavy part, comes right up front and just blasts you in the face. That was a weird way to say that. And then, of course, the drumming. Amazing the whole way through, and then at the end, just climaxing with the double bass, really bringing the song full circle. I mean, just all around, this is just a great song. I think this is... I don't know. I think this is just the perfect song. Oh, and... sorry, almost forgot. I literally haven't even mentioned the saxophone. Saxophone in metal and that kind of thing is very interesting. Now let's just talk about jazz in general to an extent. Opeth, very jazzy in a lot of their songs. So, for example, let me get this here, window pane. Window Pane Opeth. So in the song Window Pane by Opeth, in the very first opening guitar tones, you can hear jazz. It's very jazzy the way that they're playing, and you get the same thing with Rivers in that saxophone part. Not exactly like this, but the saxophone works very well in the setting that they gave it because of the melodic parts that they had in there, and they threw it in there. And then it climaxed. The saxophone climaxed the last note when it went back to the heavier part, which worked. Would the saxophone have worked during the heavy parts? Hey, with the talent they have, it may have, but we know it worked especially well in the softer parts. And it didn't sound like a novelty. And that's something that's very, that's a great topic to discuss. Novelty music or novelties in music. So the saxophone in this song worked. Would saxophone in all metal songs work? Of course not. No, because it's a different sound and they're kind of contrasting. But the way that it was implemented here was perfect. Now, you could try and say, oh, they just threw in the saxophone because it's a cool instrument to try and incorporate in metal, but they did it very well here. Other bands may not be able to incorporate that well. And saxophone is something that's been in hardcore and punk and stuff like that. You have Zorn, very popular saxophonist who does the same thing and makes it work for the tone he's trying to create. But let's talk about novelties really quick. See, what separates a novelty and what makes it something that's actually good quality, or they're just trying to like fit something in that doesn't usually go together, but so for example, Linkin Park, right? You have the rap and the rock, the hip hop electronic elements, and they brought it together very well. You have Baby Metal, a very gimmicky and in a sense novelty band, bringing together heavy metal and Japanese vocals, like pop vocals basically, but they got past that gimmick if you look into their career a little bit, and they actually worked it together very well. So there's a lot of bands that you can do it well, you can do it not well. It takes a certain type of musician, a certain type of person, a certain type of artist to really take those two things and put them together, whatever they may be. And Rivers, you did a great job. That's literally the point. I don't know how long this video is, but that's literally the point of everything I was trying to say. And the lyrics. I actually love the lyrics in this type of metal because they're vague. There's a story being told. You don't always know what the story is, but you can apply it once again to anything in your life. So, and then I wished you away. I lost those memories of the days we weren't forsaken. Why don't we just relax our eyes and fall into a dream? Let it take my mind where owls know my name, and it gets colder every day. Basically, just wanting escape from whatever it is. Why don't we just relax our eyes and fall into the dream? Forget all of it. And then the growling part, the lyrics, lost in eternity's grasp, withdrawing further from what we have known, this mentality that we've built, it's breaking down. This could be anything. You really could relate that to anything. Have we gotten away from the old ways, from certain traditions, from certain things that may have seemed better in the past? Are we kind of going away from that? You can relate that to technology. You can relate that to life. You can relate that to a relationship. Now, reading really quickly right here, it says, Owls is essentially the story of the last man on Earth. He was made immortal by the planet itself to be the sole intelligent witness of the death of the planet. That's actually a really interesting story, and I love when bands take stories like that. Yes, is it a story? Is that a story? Oh yeah. But you see how they take that story and they write the lyrics in such a way that even though it still tells that story, you could relate it to anything else in your life. And I think that's awesome. That's great songwriting. That's great lyric writing. So hats off to you. I'm not taking my hat off because I'm insecure with my head. But guys, let me know what you thought of the song. Let me know what you think of the channel. Let me know what you think literally of everything in your life. And of course, join me in the comments down below. Join me for discussion. Join me on my Twitter. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.